In 1953, the CIA started a program that would make the KGB blush. They drugged American citizens without their knowledge. They tortured prisoners in secret prisons. They erased memories, and they got away with all of it. The program was called MKUltra. IT lasted 20 years. IT involved 149 subprojects. And it operated in 80 institutions across the United States, Canada, and Europe. The CIA called it research. The victims called it torture, and the American people never knew it happened. This is the story of the most disturbing chapter in CIA history, and the cover-up that followed. The year was 1950. The Cold War was heating up. In Korea, American prisoners of war were making bizarre confessions. They were denouncing capitalism. They were praising communism, and they seemed to have been brainwashed. The CIA was terrified. They believed the Soviets had developed mind control techniques, and they were determined to catch up. In 1950, CIA Director Roscoe Hillenkoetter approved Project Bluebird. Its goal was simple: discover means of conditioning personnel to prevent unauthorized extraction of information and investigate the possibility of controlling an individual through special interrogation techniques that in 1951 Alan Dulles took over. He was obsessed with mind control. He renamed the program Artichoke, and he began expanding it rapidly. But Dulles wanted more. He wanted a program so secret, so ambitious, and so extreme that it would change everything that in 1953 got it. Sidney Gottlieb was a chemist. He was also a poet. He was a folk dancer. And he was the most dangerous man in the CIA. In 1952, Gottlieb joined the agency as its top drug expert. He was quiet. He was unassuming. And he was brilliant. That he believed that drugs could unlock the human mind. That he believed that LSD could be a truth serum. He believed that electroshock could erase memories. And he believed that sensory deprivation could break any man. In 1953, Gottlieb arranged for the CIA to spend $240,000 to buy the world's entire supply of LSD. That he distributed it to hospitals, clinics, and universities through fake foundations. The institutions never knew they were working for the CIA. The patients never knew they were guinea pigs. And Gottlieb never lost a night's sleep. He called his program MKUltra. The MK stood for mind control. The Ultra meant it was the most sensitive project in the agency, and it was. Gottlieb's experiments were not limited to willing volunteers. They included prisoners. They included mental patients. They included people with addiction. And they included ordinary Americans who had no idea what was happening to them. In 1953, a group of CIA scientists met at a cabin on Deep Creek Lake in Maryland. They were there to discuss their work. Frank Olson was among them. He was a biological warfare expert, a CIA officer, and a family man. Gottlieb spiked their drinks with LSD. Olson had a severe reaction. He became paranoid. He could not sleep. He could not concentrate. And he told his wife he had made a terrible mistake. 9 days later, Frank Olson fell from the window of a New York hotel room. He was in his underwear. He died on the sidewalk. The official verdict was suicide. But the hotel manager was skeptical. In all my years in the hotel business, he said, I never encountered a case where someone got up in the middle of the night, ran across a dark room in his underwear, avoiding 2 beds, and dove through a closed window with the shade and curtains drawn. Frank Olson's death was the first fatality of MKUltra, but it was far from the last. In 1957, Whitey Bulger was incarcerated at Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. He was a convicted criminal, but he was also an MKUltra subject. He was told the experiments would cure schizophrenia. In exchange, he would get time off his sentence. For 15 months, Bulger was given LSD almost daily. He described the experience as horrific. 8 convicts in a panic and paranoid state, he wrote. Total loss of appetite, hallucinated, room would change shape. Hours of paranoia and feeling violent. We experienced horrible periods of living nightmares and even blood coming out of the walls. Guys turning to skeletons in front of me. Bulger survived, but he was never the same. And neither were hundreds of other victims who never knew they were part of a CIA experiment. In Montreal, Canada, Dr. Ewan Cameron was conducting his own experiments. He was the president of the World Psychiatric Association. He was the director of the Allen Memorial Institute, and he was funded by the CIA through a front organization. Cameron developed 2 methods, psychic driving and depatterning. For psychic driving, he subjected patients to spoken messages on loop tapes that he forced them to listen to the same sentence for up to 20 hours a day. He placed speakers under their pillows that he administered paralytic drugs to reduce their defenses, and he used LSD on unwitting individuals. For depatterning, he isolated patients in dark rooms. He covered their eyes with goggles. He reduced all sensory input, and he administered electroshock therapy at levels far beyond normal. The goal was to erase the patient's personality and rebuild it from scratch. The CIA called it research. The patients called it torture, and many of them were never the same. MKUltra was not a rogue operation. It was a systematic program that involved some of the most prestigious institutions in America. At least 44 universities and colleges participated. At least 80 institutions were involved, and at least 185 researchers conducted experiments for the CIA. Some knew they were working for the agency. Many did not. The CIA used front organizations to hide its involvement. IT created fake foundations. IT channeled money through legitimate charities, and it made sure that no paper trail led back to Langley. Among the institutions were Harvard, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, and McGill University. Among the researchers were doctors, psychologists, and chemists who believed they were advancing science. They were not. They were conducting torture on American soil, and they were doing it with taxpayer money. The methods used in MKUltra were not subtle. They were extreme, they were dangerous, and they were often lethal. The CIA experimented with LSD, cocaine, heroin, and mescaline. IT used hypnosis, electroshock, and sensory deprivation. IT tested paralytic drugs and sedatives. IT explored radiation and biological agents. And it conducted all of this on unwitting subjects. The goal was to find a truth serum that could force confessions. To develop a memory erasure technique that could wipe minds clean. To create a Manchurian candidate that could be programmed to kill on command, and to defend against similar techniques that the CIA believed the Soviets had already developed. None of these goals were achieved, but the damage was done. Hundreds of people were psychologically damaged, some were permanently shattered, and some died. Nobody knows the true number, because in 1973 the CIA destroyed almost all the records. In 1973, Richard Helms was leaving his position as CIA director. He knew that MKUltra was about to be exposed, and he took action. He personally ordered Sidney Gottlieb to destroy all MKUltra records. Gottlieb complied. He and 4 others spent an entire day tearing and burning 152 files. Then Gottlieb had his own personal papers destroyed by his secretary. The head of the CIA Records Center protested in writing that he was overruled. That is obstruction of justice. That is criminal destruction of federal records. And neither Helms nor Gottlieb was ever charged with a crime. Helms received a $2,000 fine for lying to Congress about an unrelated matter, and he collected his government pension until he died. Gottlieb retired to rural Virginia, and he wrote poetry. The victims got nothing. In 1974, journalist Seymour Hersh exposed the CIA's illegal domestic operations in the New York Times. The story was explosive, and it led to congressional investigations. In 1975, the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission began probing CIA abuses. But MKUltra was supposed to be a secret forever. Then an archivist made a mistake. In 1977, while complying with a Freedom of Information Act request, he discovered 7 boxes of MKUltra financial records that had been misfiled. They had escaped the bonfire. Those 7 boxes changed everything. They revealed the names of institutions. They revealed the names of researchers. They revealed the specific operations the CIA had funded. And they proved that MKUltra was not a rumor. It was real. It was vast. And it was criminal. In 1977, the Senate held hearings on MKUltra. Sidney Gottlieb testified. He had been granted immunity, and his memory was suspiciously fuzzy. He claimed he could not remember key details. He claimed he did not know the extent of the damage, and he claimed that MKUltra had been a failure. Congress was never told the truth. Investigative journalist Tom O'Neill testified in 2026 that I believe the agency misled Congress in 1977 when it characterized MKUltra as a failure. In fact, MKUltra was not a failure. It achieved exactly what the CIA wanted. It proved that the agency could conduct illegal experiments on American citizens without detection. It proved that the intelligence community could destroy evidence and avoid accountability. and it proved that the American people would never know the truth unless someone made a mistake. The victims of MKUltra have spent decades fighting for justice. In 1975, the Olson family sued the CIA. The government settled for nearly $7 million in today's money, but the settlement came with a condition. The family could not pursue criminal charges. In Canada, victims of Dr. Cameron's experiments also sued. They received compensation from the Canadian government, but the CIA was never held liable. In 1995, Stanley Glickman sued the CIA Helms and Gottlieb. He claimed he had been drugged with LSD. In a Paris cafe in 1952, the case was dismissed for lack of evidence. In 2026, Congress held new hearings on MKUltra. Task Force Chairwoman Anna Paulina Luna called the program crimes against humanity, administering drugs to people without their knowledge or consent, she said, subjecting humans to psychological torture, and using prisoners and hospital patients as non-consenting research subjects. These are crimes against humanity. The Central Intelligence Agency committed them, and then the director of the CIA ordered the destruction of evidence. In 2025, new documents were declassified. They included Sidney Gottlieb's testimony to the Church Committee from 1975. They included CIA memos about the destruction of records, and they included new details about the scope of MKUltra. But many questions remain. How many people were actually experimented on? How many died? And what did the CIA really achieve? In 2026, the House Oversight Committee held new hearings on MKUltra. Dr. Stephen Kinzer testified that MKUltra conducted the most extreme experiments on human beings that have ever been carried out by a U.S. government agency. By any standard, he said they qualify as medical torture. Officers of MKUltra were authorized to travel to foreign countries and asked the local CIA station to provide them with expendables, human beings who would not be missed if they disappeared. The American people deserve a complete and truthful record, Luna said. The victims and their families deserve acknowledgement, and this Congress has a constitutional obligation to ensure that full declassification is not delayed any longer. MKUltra officially ended in 1964. It was renamed MK Search, and it continued in a reduced form until 1973, but its legacy lives on. The techniques developed in MKUltra were used in CIA interrogation programs during the War on Terror. The same methods that were tested on unwitting Americans in the 1950s were used on prisoners at Guantanamo Bay in the 2000s. The same doctors who conducted experiments for the CIA advised the government on enhanced interrogation, and the same arguments about national security were used to justify both. Sidney Gottlieb died in 1999. He spent his final years in India running a leper colony. That he never expressed remorse, he never apologized to his victims, and he never faced justice. Richard Helms died in 2002. He was buried with full honors. He never faced justice either. The victims of MKUltra are still waiting. Some are dead. Some are alive, but damaged. And some never knew what happened to them. MKUltra was not a conspiracy theory. IT was a government program. IT was illegal. IT was immoral. And it was real. This was MKUltra, the CIA's secret war on the American people. Subscribe for the next episode of Forgotten Origins, because history is stranger than fiction, and we are just getting started.